Have you ever turned to the woman lying next to you, the one who's been with you through the years, raised your children, shouldered the responsibilities of family life, and suddenly felt the distance between you has never been greater? She's still there, still cooks for you, still asks if you slept well. But something has changed. The old look in her eyes is gone. The casual touches from the past have faded. Some nights you lie beside her and feel like two strangers sharing the same bed. You stay silent. So does she. And the scariest part is that neither of you knows where to begin again. At 60, you're not looking for passion like in your youth. You don't need fiery nights. You just want a tight hug, a gentle shoulder to lean on, a feeling that you're still needed. But it seems like she no longer wants that closeness. You place a hand on her shoulder and feel hesitation in yourself. You wonder, will she reject me? Am I doing something wrong? The truth is, desire doesn't just disappear. It's not killed by age nor swept away by time. It just gets locked away, suffocated by silence, by routine, and by neglected devotions. And when the feelings fade, the body no longer knows how to return. If you see yourself in these lines, in the distance, in the missed touches, in the way she looks at you without the spark she once had, then this is your story. Leave a 1 in the comments if this resonates with you. And if you're trying to understand but still feel lost, leave a 0. We'll continue the story not to explain, but to walk with you. David is 62. He was once a strong, attractive man, admired by many. In his youth, women noticed him. But the only one he chose was Susan, his wife of over 30 years. They used to talk late into the night, take spontaneous trips and be close like there was no tomorrow. But now he shares with a hoarse voice and eyes cast to the floor. I don't know when it started, but I began to feel like a roommate with my wife. We still live together, still have dinner together, but it's been so long since I've touched her naturally. Some nights I turn my back and the distance between us feels larger than an ocean. His story is not rare. Linda, aged 58, once loved her husband so much she could tell from his eyes if he was tired or sad. They had a simple but laughter-filled home. But in recent years, Linda says even a surprise touch from her husband makes her feel uncomfortable. I feel pressured. Even a light touch, not because I don't love him anymore, but I feel like no one asks how I'm doing all day. Then at night, I'm expected to be ready. I need to be understood, not just loved through actions. Sound familiar? This isn't rare. It's common among couples after 20 to 30 years together. They still love each other, but no longer understand each other. They still live side by side, but their hearts have built invisible walls. Women don't shut down physically because they've stopped loving. They pull away because it's been too long since they were truly heard. They close up because they feel taken for granted, not cherished as a woman. And when their hearts close, their bodies can't open anymore. Men, on the other hand, feel rejected, but they don't know how to fix it. No one teaches a 60-year-old husband how to make his wife feel valued again. No one tells you that touching your wife after 30 years of love is harder than the first date. You start to wonder, am I no longer attractive? Does she not love me anymore? Is this the end? No, it's not the end. No one taught us how to love in our later years. But love doesn't die. It's just asleep, buried deep inside. And if we're gentle enough, patient enough, it can still be awakened. Not with demands, not with apologies, but with something much simpler, emotional connection. And in the next part, we'll hear from top psychologists why desire doesn't fade with age, why emotion is the foundation of physical intimacy after 50, and how you can not just be together, but truly be close once again. Are you ready? Most men think that, after turning 50, a fading sex life is just natural. They blame age, hormones, work stress, or simply say, it's just that time of life, it's no longer important. But the truth might surprise you. Sexual desire doesn't disappear because the body declines. It fades because emotional connection has been neglected. According to Dr. John Gottman, a renowned marriage researcher in the U.S., couples who maintain a healthy sex life after middle age don't do so because they're more physically active, but because they continue to nurture their emotions like when they first fell in love. He says, a woman still wants intimacy, but only when she feels safe, heard, and cherished. If not, natural desire will retreat like a defense mechanism. What does that mean? It means you can hit the gym every day, boost your testosterone, take supplements, but if the woman next to you doesn't feel emotionally understood, physical desire won't return. Famed psychologist Esther Perel once made a profound point. Desire doesn't live in responsibility, it thrives in emotional freedom. Women don't crave intimacy when they feel trapped by roles. They crave it when they feel seen through the eyes of a former lover. In other words, after 50, a woman's desire is less about biology and more about emotion. Think back to when you first fell in love with her. What did you say? How did you look at her? Remember how, even without touching, one glance was enough to make both your hearts flutter? So what changed? Not your hormones, but we forgot the art of emotional connection. We ask fewer questions. We look at our phones more than into each other's eyes. We do everything for the family, but forget to listen to the quiet voice of our partner's heart. A study from the University of Chicago once showed couples over 55 who reported the most fulfilling sex lives were the ones who made it a habit to talk for at least 15 minutes a day, not about work, but about feelings. Just 15 minutes. Not about who pays the bills, who's picking up the grandkids, or who's cooking dinner, but how are you feeling today? Is there anything you've been worried about? What made you feel appreciated by me today? When emotions are nurtured, the physical doors that once shut start to open on their own. And here's the most important message from psychologists. Intimacy doesn't start in the bedroom. It starts in the kitchen, the living room, in the glance, and in the unspoken touch. You can't create desire through physical action alone, but you can awaken it by making her feel chosen, seen, and loved, not out of duty, but because you still choose her every single day. A 58-year-old man once shared with his marriage therapist, "I tried it all, supplements, lifestyle changes, romantic getaways, but it wasn't until I truly listened and stopped reacting that my wife started laughing again, and then everything slowly came back." The therapist gently replied, "Because desire doesn't need to be rushed. It just needs to be awaited with genuine presence." If you're wondering why she's no longer initiating, why she pulls away when you reach out, ask yourself this first. When was the last time she felt truly seen by you? Not for her looks, not for sex, but for who she really is. That is what unlocks everything. And if you think it's too late, remember, the woman beside you doesn't need a younger man. She needs a more emotionally mature one. Desire in midlife doesn't vanish. It simply requires a version of you that's more thoughtful, more tender, and more present. And in the next section, we'll dive into real, practical actions, 3 simple things you can start doing today to rekindle connection, emotion, and even desire without pills or grand plans. Because sometimes a single unasked for handhold is the very beginning of everything you've been searching for.
David and Susan, as you already know from earlier, had gone through many years without intimacy. There were no fights, no third party, and certainly no lack of love, but the gentle touches gradually disappeared. The words, "I love you," were reserved only for special occasions, if not entirely replaced by silence. Then something changed in David. Not because of a self-help book, not because of a talk with a sex therapist, but from a simple, down-to-earth piece of advice from an old friend. If you want her to open up, make her feel safe first, not with words, but by truly being present in the most literal sense. So he started again. No drama, no goals, no plan to rekindle the fire. He simply became the man she once trusted enough to spend her life with. The first thing he did might sound too simple to matter, but turned out to be incredibly powerful. He asked her a question he hadn't thought to ask in years. How are you feeling today? Not, did you eat or got anything tomorrow? But a sincere question, not meant to start a conversation or fix anything. Just an open door, inviting her out of the silence that had stretched on for years. At first, Susan simply smiled and said, just the usual. But David didn't stop there. Each night, before bed, he brought her a warm cup of tea and asked again. No pressure, no expectation of a profound answer, just to show her, I still want to know what's going on inside you. A few days later, Susan began saying more. She told him she wasn't angry, just tired. Tired of always being the one who understood. Tired of having to guess his moods. Tired of feeling like she had become invisible. No one asked, no one listened. And in her words, David began to see his wife again, the woman she used to be. Same eyes, same voice, just hidden behind years of being a mother, a wife, a caretaker. One simple question, repeated with patience and sincerity, awakened emotions that had been buried deep. And that emotional shift paved the way for something greater, physical closeness. But it wasn't just about words. David changed how he touched her, too. In the past, every touch seemed to carry a purpose, intimacy, reconciliation, or desire. Now he touched her just to touch. A gentle stroke on her back as she cooked, a soft handhold while watching TV, a kiss on the forehead with no words, no expectations. Not everyone understands the power of unconditional touch, but for Susan, it spoke louder than anything else. She started resting her head on his shoulder while they watched the news. She no longer pulled away when he came near, not because desire magically returned, but because she felt safe. A 63-year-old woman once said in therapy, I just wish my husband would touch me the way he touches someone he loves, not to start anything, just to remind me that I'm still the woman in his heart. Touch with no demands, no expectations, no strings, is a powerful act, understood only by emotionally mature men. And then David did something else. He brought back memories. Not through emotional speeches or digging up the past to blame, but gently. He reprinted an old wedding photo, framed it, and quietly placed it on the breakfast table. When Susan saw it, she didn't say a word. She simply laid her hand on it and smiled. A smile that held both surprise and emotion. Maybe she hadn't thought David still remembered, still held on, still cherished. But he did. That's when David realized women don't need grand romantic gestures. They need signs that they are still the one. From time to time, he'd recall small memories. The time she forgot to turn off the gas. The time they got lost in the woods. The time she jumped into a pool in her wedding dress over a bet. These memories, thought to be long faded, sparked something in Susan again. The same feelings that once made her want to hold him close. Memories, when revisited with care, can be a bridge that brings two people closer than anything else. And you know what? All three things David did, asking a simple question, touching without expectations, and gently recalling memories, cost nothing. They didn't require a change in appearance. No doctors, no experts, just a heart truly present. After a few months, Susan was the one to take David's hand first. She suggested a weekend getaway. She started picking out the soft nightgowns she once tucked away in the bottom drawer. Not because youth had returned, but because emotion had. David said during an end-of-year conversation, I don't need my wife to be like she was at 30. I just want her to know that to me, she's still the most important woman. And if that makes her want to be close again, then that's a gift, not a reward. Desire isn't killed by time. It simply goes quiet when left unfed. And if you're ready to start again, not with grand effort, but with those 3 gentle, loving things, you'll find that nothing is more powerful than tenderness, and nothing is more attractive than a man who knows how to love a woman with a grown-up heart.
If you've made it with me this far, chances are you're holding the same question in your heart as millions of men over 50. Is there still a chance to fall in love again with the very woman who's walked beside me for half a lifetime? I want to tell you this, not as an expert, but as a man who once lost intimacy in his own marriage and one day sat silently watching the woman he loved shed tears, not out of anger, but because she felt forgotten. Sex in midlife isn't like it was at 25. It doesn't begin with a seductive look, romantic music, or a quick caress. It begins with full presence. It begins when you ask a sincere question and truly listen. It begins when you gently touch her shoulder, not hoping for what comes next, but simply because you miss the feeling of being close to her. It begins when you recall a small memory, not to tease, but to let her know, of all the things you've forgotten, you still remember something about her. When a woman over 50 feels seen, heard, and chosen again, she opens her heart. And in that moment, there is no right or wrong, no age, no too late. Only 2 people who once loved each other, now choosing to love again, in a way that's more mature, more tender, and deeper than ever before. Many believe keeping the flame alive is exhausting. But the truth is, it's not hard to keep the flame burning. What's hard is realizing the flame never went out. It just needs the soft breath of care and understanding to rise again. If you're in a relationship where intimacy has faded, don't think all is lost. You don't need a miracle. You just need the courage to start again with the smallest of things. A morning hug, a question that doesn't need an immediate answer. A look at the woman beside you as if you're seeing her for the first time, but knowing without a doubt this is the person you want to be with until the end. And if anything I've shared today has touched you in any way, I invite you to leave a 1 in the comments as your way of saying, I understand, I'm ready to change. If you still feel lost, unsure where to begin, leave a 0, because the next video, I promise, will be for you, the men who are searching for the map back to the heart of the woman they love. If you feel less alone, if this video helped you realize something deeper, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share it with a friend who might need it too. Because in the end, not everyone gets the chance to start again at 50. But if you're here, listening, understanding, and willing, you've already started. And you won't have to walk this road alone. We're here, with you, on the journey of loving again, understanding again, and living again, the very thing we thought we had lost.